Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to SheppardDevos. It's Sean, and good to be with you again today. The song of the day was by Jeff Deyo. That's spelled D-E-Y-O, and it's called "I'd Rather Have Jesus." That is an old, very old hymn, if you're not familiar with it, that he remade. And Jeff was the lead singer for another group called Sonic Flood, which did a lot of great worship stuff, pretty edgy at the time, and really, really good. So it was refreshing to go back and hear some of his work again. So on this song, Jeff brings out a lot of things, or whoever the hymn writer was, brought out a lot of just great stuff and great thoughts. He talks about I'd rather have Jesus than vain applause. I'd rather have Jesus than silver or gold. I'd rather have Jesus than houses or land. You know, or to be the king of a vast domain, or to be held in sin's dread sway. I'd rather have Jesus than anything the world affords today. And as we listen to that, you think, okay, that's cool song, cool thought. But you know what, Sean? No one's offering me houses or land. I've not gotten a whole lot of applause here lately, and silver and gold, just not so much. Uh, However, we all get the point here, and I know that you do as well. And that is that the world, the systems of this world, and all the things that would vie for our attention are doing just that. It's always this constant pull of living for these things that we can reach out and touch. And all of a sudden, the houses and the land and our careers and whatever else, these things can become bigger than they ought to be. And then what we see is that in comparison, God somehow begins to shrink, right? We've seen this. If you remember the parable of the sower, it talks about these different types of seeds that were sown, and some among the path, some among rocky soil, some among thorns. And the one that was sown among thorns, this means that the seed got planted among and around the thorns, and that the thorns eventually, which they called the cares of life, came up and eventually choked out that seed. And the seed is representing the Word of God. And for you and I, it can be representing our salvation in a way. And all I'm saying is that the world can encroach upon our relationship with God because it's always pulling us this way and that way to other things that distract. And so this song, brings us back to this issue of, what is it that we choose? And I guess that's really a question: is do we see that we have to make any choices between I'd rather have Jesus or X? And sometimes we don't realize that it is a choice. But a couple interesting scriptures that you might already be familiar with in Joshua chapter 24, verse 15. Joshua is speaking to the people of Israel. I believe they're getting ready to cross over, and I didn't flip open to it this morning. But basically, he's telling the people of Israel, listen, you can do what you want. You can, serve other gods. You can do whatever else. And he's speaking to the people of Israel. But Joshua says this. He says, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So there's this place, at least in Joshua's life, where he had to sort of draw the line in the sand and declare, no, this is what I am about. This is what my family is about. And I think there's um, room for that in our own lives. I know that there is. That's one of the reasons that in these Devos we talk so often about refocusing and coming back to these places of good thought, to keep us pointed in the right direction. Because truth is, there's a lot of distractions out there, and we have a very real enemy. And this enemy of our souls, the devil, is always interested in distracting us and causing other things to become more important than our relationship and our walk with Christ. And you know what that's called? When anything begins to take a greater thing than our relationship with Christ, or a greater level of importance, it's an idol. It has become something that we have placed above God. So for me, and I've been, shared transparently with you all before, there's things that I need to look at as I continue to pursue career things or whatever else. I want to be sure that at the end of the day, that Jesus is the foundation, the basis of it all. And not only that, he's not just a foundation, but he is the pinnacle of anything that I would ever desire. And then anything else, any other thing, is going to take second place. But as we saw in Joshua, this took a choice, and it takes choices for you and I to make those decisions. So here's I heard a story here a while back that was pretty good. And as we look at this issue, we talked about, I'd rather have Jesus than X. one of the questions that will come up might be why. Why should we want, or why would you want Jesus? What makes him more valuable? I mean, let's be honest about it. What is it? Because we've not seen him face to face. What is it that's out there? And well, naturally, the biggest reason is really because of what he has done. Jesus loved us before we ever loved him. He gave his own life for us. So the big why, to say I'd rather have you, Jesus, than anything else, would be because of what you did for me. Because when I was lost, you came and found me. When I was dead, you breathed life into me. When I was lost in sin, you redeemed me. You came after me. This is why we want him more than anything else. Because no one else has ever done that for us, and no one else has ever promised us eternity either. The story that I wanted to tell you about very quickly was what I heard on David Platt was speaking about recently. But he said C.S. Lewis, a famous theologian and writer, had made this comment. He said, if I had an hour to spend with an individual, just 1 hour, and let's say they knew that was going to be the last hour of that individual's life, he said he would spend 45 minutes trying to convince this individual of his sinful condition. This is assuming the guy wasn't saved and didn't know the Lord. So I'd spend 45 minutes trying to convince him of his sinful condition and 15 minutes trying to tell him about salvation. And when I heard that at first, I'm like, dude, a little hardcore, huh? Lighten up a little bit. But then I realized that, he's making a good point here, because so often for many of us, you know what, we don't think that we are that bad off to begin with. And so we sometimes don't value our salvation that much. We may not value what Jesus did that much. And this is why we need to come back and think about these things. When we say why would I rather have Jesus? Why should we want Jesus? It comes back to this issue of us realizing what we've been rescued from. And that should be the very thing, in realizing that continues to make him the best thing that we could ever want. And the last thing, in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 9, go back and check the scriptures, but it says this. It says, that eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor has heart conceived the things that God has prepared for those that love him. Go back and choose. I mean, this is really going back to our own selfish stuff, but beyond the fact that we have been saved, Jesus has promised us so much and said that our life is going to be an amazing eternal thing. And that ought to be yet another thing that drives us. So today, you know what? Set it in your own mind that you'd rather have Jesus than any other thing, and allow that to show in your life. Ask God just to work on this. Just be chewing on this week. Jesus is better and worth more than anything else. All right, bless y'all.